All right, so we're going to continue talking about melees and overruns, the close-in, close quarters combat. Now, we covered the previous videos talking about melees and getting in there, how you get your numbers, how you do your D6 checks. So make sure you check those before this one. This, we're going to look at having a squad infantry perform a melee against an armored fighting vehicle like our tank here. Now, for the most part, everything kind of runs the same that we were going over previously, so you don't have to change too much when you are attacking a vehicle. Now, if your armored fighting vehicle is stacked with any infantry of its own, like if this infantry squad were still located here, then they would be calculated as normal. So they would be included in that melee combat. Also, when your attackers are performing their attacks, everything's going to be remaining the same. So you're going to get your D6 factors, any modifiers that they have, all those checks, that's going to be done the same. When it comes to your armored fighting vehicle, that's where things do change up just a little bit. Because our armored fighting vehicle is not going to be using its firepower numbers to gain its D6 checks. What it's actually going to use is its armor value and not its full armor value. It's actually going to use its flank armor value. So for this M4, it would actually have 2d6 checks because of its flank value being a 2. Now, any armored fighting vehicle that is attacked in melee will get at least one check. There are some that do have a 0 as a flanking value. Even if they do have that 0, they will get at least a single d6 check in melee combat. Also, there's a little change when it comes up to the degrading or blocking terrain. When armored fighting vehicles are trying to do an overrun, they can't overrun into blocking terrain. But let's say they're in degrading or blocking terrain, that actually will confer them a bonus. If they're in degrading terrain, they're going to get a single d6 check bonus. If they're in blocking terrain, they're going to get 2d6 added to their value, but that's not going to count for wooden buildings or stone buildings. They don't gain that bonus when they're in that type of territory. Now, when it comes to the hits received by the armored fighting vehicle, it's again similar, but a little different from the normal melee type combat. A single hit will cause a shaken result. A second hit, so if you have 2 hits on them, instead of just directly applying the shaken result, you will have to conduct a morale check to determine whether or not the crew abandons the vehicle. We did discuss that in a previous video. If they abandon, obviously the vehicle's done. If they don't abandon, you will obviously apply a second shaken result, and 3 hits will destroy the vehicle. And just to go ahead and address it really quickly, when it comes to weapon teams, things like mortars or your big gun teams, those can only defend in melee combat. They can never initiate a melee combat themselves, and they will always defend with a value of a single d6 check, and it's not going to matter whatever their firepower value is. They're not going to use that to determine how many checks they get. Weapon teams just defend at a natural 1d6 check.